surreptitiously a socially acceptable drug. I recall that growing up, joints where they sold or smoked marijuana were not very much welcome within residential areas, right? But these days, sadly, people smoke marijuana on the street, openly, even people in uniform.
You know, that, you see, the thing is, dealing with the issue of substance abuse in Nigeria needs strategic thinking and implementation. And to be honest with you, I'm glad that General Marwa has come to become the chairman of NDLEA. He was chairman of PASIDA, and in the process, he met with a lot of stakeholders. So he had a very good understanding of what the issues are. And I think it's beginning to unfold. My fear is, I hope they give there's a political will to help him, and also the resources. In the sense that one of the things we must begin to do in Nigeria is look at the NDLEA proper. The law setting it up has to be reviewed, in my own understanding. Is too omnibus. What they expect to do, this. If we don't begin to particularize their area of attention, yes, it's good. They can be doing the interdiction, catching people and all the rest. But we need to place emphasis on demand reduction. If we don't do that, because one of the things that the Europeans have understood is this: they give us a lot of gadgets to catch people at the airport. You can't carry the drug. So what happens with the drug that doesn't go out? They get domesticated. And if they get domesticated, it allows accessibility and availability on different scales. Do drugs at motor park, boys, rascal, is not true. Big people, I mean, some experiences we are seeing lately have shown us that big people do. If you want to see some of these things in some areas of secluded areas of Lagos, highbrow areas, is to watch during break time. When you see, what do they call, yuppies, leave their offices in suit and everything, you see them drive to a house. They're not going there to have, just sit down. There's something that's going to happen there. Many of the parties today that are highbrow are drug fed. So we need to be aware, and you probably also have noticed or seen from when they has done, many of the cookies, many of these things are bought online. People are making drugs and putting them in food materials and selling them to young people. And so that's why we need to worry. And when you talked about tackling it and about the availability, look, whether highbrow or anywhere in Lagos, there's no place, there's no joint.
You know, that's something that's very scary. You said there's possibly nowhere in Nigeria, no part of Nigeria where there is no joint, drug joint. What I have found is that even the drug of use, the preferred drug of use, differs from region to region.
Absolutely.
So that's like a hydra-headed problem.
Good. You know, you've just touched on something that I'd like to elaborate. You know, in CADAM, we sat down and looked at the spectrum of the things available, and then we came to a classification. 4 groups. The first one is socially acceptable: alcohol and cigarette. Go and check today. There is no alcohol you will not find in sachet. And why do they put it in sachet? The man who cannot buy the bottle can buy the sachet. The sachet is about 20 naira. So when you go to the joint, you see them buy like 2 of them, using them, raise the amount, put it out, and then begin to use the drug of that day. Then you'll be caught. And then the third one is prescription drugs. Something like tramadol, something like Refnol, something like Valium, something like injection pentazocine. These are drugs that are prescribed in hospitals for moderate to severe cases of pain. One of the things we're beginning to find that is scary, and I'm talking very responsibly because they are being called to come and intervene. There's a particular drug called injection pentazocine, which is you can get on the counter. They call it Fortwin. It's a painkiller, which is usually used for sicklers, which has been corruptly used carelessly for sicklers. If you give pentosozine to someone, in 5 minutes the pain will disappear. You will see and say, hey, there's no pain. So it's become common because you can get it everywhere. Doctors, nurses are also beginning to abuse it. And also things like pethidine, drugs you can get in the hospital. I mean, Refnol is a drug of prescription that people get. Most of these, all these drugs that I mentioned, you can get them across the counter in Nigeria, prescription. So that's the third category. The scary one is the fourth category. We call them miscellaneous. Why do we say miscellaneous? Because you can't classify them as drugs. Petrol, nail polish remover,
Whoa.
gum, Evostick, something like toilet fumes, pit latrine, or if a non-flowing gutter, the stuff are taken and built it into a mold and put fire to it, and then they inhale it. You see, this is not localized to Nigeria. I saw it in Kenya when I visited Kenya some years ago. Some young, you know when you see people go to dung hill to begin scavenge, you watch some of them. They will sit down, put fire to it, and stand around it. The fumes that come out produce something like methane, which is also something that they inhale. So that is why we should worry, just as you said. If I can't afford cocaine, I will afford something in that category that gives me the same effect in lesser category. And then lizard dung. People will gather the white part of the lizard dung, grind it, and then put fire to it or sniff it.
Oh, no.
And also, in around Pakistan, Eastern Asia, they use scorpion. They will kill scorpion, dry it, and then use it to see. In Nigeria, there's something called gegemu. You may not know it. People in the villages know it. There is a natural growing plant that they plant behind the house to drive snake. It has fruits. How students knew that it could get them high, I don't know. It was one of the universities that I went to in Nigeria, in Southwest, that told me they will pluck the leaves, they will boil it as if they boil vegetable. You can't take the fluid neat, extremely potent. So they'll put it in bottles. When they go to parties, they'll be giving you a bit. The fruit, they will pluck it, dry it, grind it, either sniff it or put it in alcohol. So when you talk about, there are different areas. We know that in some places, they put some of this in AC.
What?
So when people, oh yes, AC vent. So that's why you see them, they have their closed parties. They can do this, so they get high.
But what does that getting high do to them or do for them?
It's a, I will call it an escape mechanism without they knowing it. Because what they mean is, when I do this, truly, there's a high that comes with sniffing or taking this thing. And the high is ephemeral. What do I mean by that? You take it, it makes you feel, oh, I'm on top of the world. Your problems, your pain seem to disappear. But it's like a Mexican story. A man carried a lot of load on his head. And he said, let me rest. He put it and he sleeps. And when he wakes up, what does he do? He picks up his load. It's the same thing with addiction. It gives a kind of freedom. I've taken it, I feel high. But the problem you are running away from, they don't disappear because you take it something.
No.
When you wake up, you pick up your problem.
Right away.
So unless people begin, you see, there's a lot of work to do if you're getting people to understand why they should not get high at all.
I'll come back to that. A lot of work to do. Let's just take a short break now, and then we'll continue. We're going on a break now. Welcome back from that break. It's still Timeless Conversations with Dokun Adedeji, my guest. Yes, we're talking about drug abuse, the prevalence of drug abuse, and you were alluding to how it is so widespread, the 4 categories. What's the way out?
You know, honestly, I'm not as pessimistic as some people think about this issue of substance that we can't get out. We can get out.
Yeah.
But it takes complementary efforts. It's
Like-
yes, a bend.
There's something.
There's something
There's
that
a
then pushes,
gravitation.
absolutely, that then pushes them to take it. The thing is, primarily, that I say today is parents must be parents again. You and I grew up in a society that it takes a village to train a child.
Yeah.
Your neighbor can first of all push you by the ears and bring you to your parents.
No, flog you mean?
And
not
flog you.
Yes.
And then still bring you to your parents, and parents
And they'll
will
flog you
flog
again.
you.
Yes.
It doesn't happen today.
Yeah.
Parents go to schools to beat up teachers. What are you telling the child? He can get away with blue murder. Many parents don't know their children.
Yeah.
Because they are in economic pursuit of happiness, in quotes. Everybody wants to work. Everyone wants to be like the Joneses. You see, there's something that I tell people. You know, in psychology, there are 3 psychological components of the human person. The id, the ego, this. Many of us, no matter the level we get to, still suffer from deficit in ego. And the ego is, who am I? Many of us don't know who we are. We have not sat down to say, who am I? What is my purpose on earth? I didn't just get born because I want to be a part of a number. There has to be something for me particular or specific that I need to do to excel in that makes me feel confident about who I am. That is why you see people want to be like somebody else.
Yes.
You know, Wole Soyinka says something, he said, a tiger does not need to proclaim his tigritude.
At all.
A tiger is a tiger.
Yeah.
And you know, people forget that no matter your disposition, you are also prone to success. There are very good barbers, very good tailors, very good different things, but the society has shifted focus. And generally we all have lost focus, even the church. What does the church talk about today? Money.
Prosperity.
Prosperity. How can you prosper when you have not labored? And then the kind of teaching that the Bible says is not the application of what the pastors say today.
Oh no, you actually see, you hear church members say that, oh, that brother is driving a Mercedes Benz.
I
claim it. Claim what?
Claim what?
Did you claim the problems that came with it?
With it? And do you know how he got his Benz?
Yes.
You know, until we train our children, as I said to you, my father used to sit with us and talk. My father never talked about money. Money is good, but he talked about values. And you see, I think Yoruba say when you are on the road, you are pursuing money or something, and you meet honor on the road.
Yes, now. So you better take the honor.
You better take the honor because money will come with the honor.
Yeah.
But you see, we are pursuing money at the detriment of honor and value. What is wrong with our society today? Look at it. We blame the young people for this. It's not true. What did they see? What examples? Who are the role models for our young people today? Absent. The people they see are the hooligans that the media will promote, put them on pages and flash them up.
Yeah.
Do they talk about people like Dr. Korade?
Yeah.
Did they talk about the lady who found money at the airport and returned it?
Returned it, yeah.
Or there was a boy I read lately in Uniben who did something and the dean had to recognize it. The guy couldn't pay his school fees. He found money. He returned it that would have paid the school fees. Do we talk about them? Does social media carry those kind of stories?
Yeah.
No. We carry the story of somebody who just, all these Yahoo boys.
Yes. Somebody who came into huge money.
Money.
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden.
Yeah.
And then nobody, even parents. Don't. So when you look at the issue of drugs, it's all those things. So if we're going to deal with it, we have to deal with it in a manner that parents understand what their roles are, and then the society also knows. You know, the problem with society is we're too quick to judge. We never give second chances to people. People that you read about, biographies and everything, if the world didn't give them second chances, look at Obama.
Yes.
If you read the story, you will know this is a classical story of somebody who would have missed it. Look at who he became.
Yeah.
We don't talk to today about those things. I just read a book lately called Beautiful Things on drugs, written by Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
If any parent read that book, they should have a different paradigm shift as to how to deal with their children. In all the issues and all the years of addiction, Joe Biden and his wife Jill never derided this boy, never denounced him and threw him out of the house. They just said, we will stand with you. And he wrote it in the book. Those were some of the elements that kept him. So the society must begin to understand these vices grew out of our own situation. We all together must work together to help these people.
I know that there's a huge prevalence of drug use amongst the very young generation, especially university students. What's the relationship between CADAM and the universities?
Both
private and...
most private. Usually, our relationship is stronger with private universities, and particularly the Christian universities.
Okay.
One started with us and saw the result, and the others learned from them. And we also now wrote in order to help the students, because many universities, out of ignorance, were expelling students. The final year. And we said to them, that is counterproductive, which is one of the things that General Marwa is now talking about. The first attempt in helping should not be punitive. We should not punish users because they are victims. So that is double jeopardy. So we wrote to the universities and said, look, we will be willing to help you. Come and visit us and see what we do. Let them come when you catch them. We will help them with rehabilitation. We will certify them. They'll go back to school. Then if you watch them, many of them have graduated. So
from university?
Oh, from university.
That's
oh, yes, I
good.
know quite many are doctors and nurses and even pilots today.
Fantastic.
That graduated from us. So that gave them, and they said, why don't we try? This is not to say that every one of them they sent to us do that. 2, 3 still fail, and then they expel them because they have tried enough. But they have seen a measure of success.
So you're saying the first step is not...
It's not rustication. It's not punishment. Even if you're going to punish, let it be a lesser level. Let's say we suspend you for a semester. Go to so place or wherever you choose. Go and get rehabilitated. Bring a certification that you have stopped. We will take you back to school. We will, because what schools today check at random.
Yeah.
So they are not caught if you do well. And they'll be watching, because what we say to them is when they come and finish with us, let a lecturer who has understanding be watching over them, report to the lecturer maybe once in 2 weeks. How are you doing? Look at it, but don't begin to check them out. Maybe this guy. No, that's not the way.
But then there's the other side of checking. When they check randomly and they find some of the chemicals in their bloodstream, like THC, for instance, which I found out can last about 30 days within the system. I mean, what does that mean? And there are other sources of getting THC?
You know, the interesting thing is, if these guys are smart.
Yes.
Catching out the university authorities. Some university authorities test, but they don't catch anyone, depending on what these boys use. So,
don't say boys only.
No, girls. Oh, girls.
Yeah.
No, you'll be surprised that this is not limited to the men folk. Women do as much drugs as men. So I use boys because in a general sense.
Yes.
So the thing is, if you find it true, you find it. But it doesn't mean that the person is on a regular use.
Okay.
Because if you use cannabis, if you don't use it within the next 2 weeks, you can still test positive. But some of the things we are telling universities, do these things with caution. Because there are some natural tablets prescribed in hospital that can make you have a false positive result with this test. For instance, let me give you. If you take Aleve, Aleve is an analgesic.
Yes.
If you take it, if they test you, they'll find THC. There'll be a false positive for THC. And so just like other drugs, there are a few, we call them non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
Okay.
Some of them can give you a false positive for THC. So you can't then find THC and say, oh, surely this guy. You must interrogate the fact. First of all, test and find results. Don't say this is what we found. Do you do this? Do you do this? So that you do not put the university in a difficult position. Because if the university now suspends, and then somehow the student can prove that it doesn't use drugs, if they then do then
subsequent tests,
then it becomes a problem for the university. Then nobody will trust your judgment.
So there's a need for caution.
There's a need for caution. And you see, one of the things we also told the university, who catches someone to take for test? You need to be careful. There must be, the security can catch, but they must hand over to someone with more authority and understanding who can then say, we'll do this. If you don't do that, and because the security who can just take, then they will make mistakes. And what we also told universities, all this noise about drugs, they don't grow in the universities. They got brought in. Some of the staff of the university are culpable. In the kitchen, in the laundry, the marijuana,
the dispatch person.
Yes, all those things are people who can bring this to this. There's one particular student I saw last week who said to me that within his school, I won't mention the university, it's a Christian university. He said in their school they use Colorado. So I asked him why. He said in the test kit of the university, Colorado does not show. It's not detected. So they use it on a grand scale. To get it within the campus from people who sell it as students starts from 2,000, 2,500 to 3,000. So he now has a friend who is in a public institution who brings it, who gets it from outside for about 500 naira. So he brings it to him. But that guy was coming one day to supply it. Both of them got caught. He was tested, it was negative, although he uses. The other person who brought was positive because he uses other things. So he was suspended or expelled. So we said to him, we will rehabilitate him and do a letter to your university that this is this, and then give you a second chance. But public institutions don't really care. You come, I mean, you can imagine that population in some of these public institutions, how would they be bothering themselves? But they have to bother because they are producing people for the outside market. The same way the workplace needs to begin to bother today in terms of the people they employ. Because if you are not careful, you will employ them to your system and they begin to grow within your system. And the drug they take does not have to be some, it can be an innocuous thing. If you see somebody in the office, for instance, who is taking a particular beverage, put it on his table, the same bottle or container for like 3 hours is not, it must be strange to you. Or somebody has a flask. You know, there's this singer who sang one time, water bottle.
Yes.
Those things are not just street water bottle. Nobody goes to a party carry water bottle.
Yes.
So you must know that there's something in it. So I'm talking about this because we must begin to be observant of the current practices in our environment to help us take decisions.
But this whole situation looks so bleak. Is there a way out?
Oh, of course there is.
You are optimistic?
I'm optimistic. Look, let me tell you my basis for optimism, particularly now.
Yes.
And I must confess, having met General Marwa and worked with him a bit, I have a feeling, I'm strongly optimistic that if he is allowed to take the time and strategy as he wants to do, with the available resources, and then with his motivating his work staff, we will get results. It will be, but it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. What do I mean by that? It won't happen by magic. It will happen because we join up to work with him, and it's every facet. You said something the other time in questioning me. Even within the law enforcement agencies, there are greater users of drugs than the average society. I've been to joints where I saw them in uniform, take off their cap and they're shacking up. And that's why we have those accidents at the checkpoints and all those things. You can then know the magnitude. But I can show you, if that thing had walked past them, within 2 weeks they'll be importing another set.
Another one, yeah.
So each component of society, you know, I mentioned parents, I mentioned schools, I mentioned the workplace, then the church.
And the mosque too.
And the mosque, the religious body. You know why I'm particular about religious bodies? They see a lot more people than any component of our society.
Yes.
So if the pastors know about drugs, they talk about, not in a judgmental sense, oh, if you take drugs, you go to hell. You are making the boys continue to take. Something has to take me to somewhere.
Yes.
Don't use that. We must use love and empathy and drive it home. And when they come to talk to us, it must be confidentially maintained. They might even say, don't tell my parents. Then don't call their parents, because their parents give you shoes when they travel. You call them money. Then you destroy. And the others will never tell you stuff. It cuts across. The confidentiality must cut across every facet of the society. The church, the workplace, the schools, and everything.
Now, to ask you a final question, how is CADAM funded?
I thank you for asking me. It is one of the most difficult aspects of our operation. And I must say this, if not for Mommy Gio, we would be struggling like anything. She visited us and saw our center in the rudimentary stage when we were. She said, and this is a rehab center. No wonder when I tell people to come, they don't want to come. They say Bujero, and that is like
a ship pen.
Yes, something like. I said, Mommy, but what will we do? We've talked to everyone that we can talk to, no help. She then left, then called me. That was how she began to release money to us until we built a good center.
Yeah.
She then spoke to...
I should come there. I haven't been there in a while.
Oh, you should come.
Yeah.
And one of the things I even want to do, interest big Nigerians. Let them come and visit.
Yeah.
Then they can take a decision how they can help us. Yeah. Not necessarily if they want to give money. They can build certain centers. Yeah. They can give us equipment. They can give us the things that we need. They don't have to give us money, so they don't say some people want to chop their money. But it's a place for people to visit. Even when people want to have ceremonies like a poker birthday, they can say, every form from it I give to this center, or come and help us. But finance is a major issue. The church gives us money, which today is like what we use to pay salaries to buy food, because the program is free.
Yes.
The program in Ekpe is free. We don't charge a dime for it, and they spend a year. We